We pay for formula, why can't we pay for breast milk?
If I could just go to the store and buy it off the shelf, 100%, I would do that.
When I did my estimates of the value of human milk in Australia, the figure I used is $100 a litre.
Once you lose that altruism and the motivation is money, then we're doing it for the wrong reason.
I've had milk from many different mothers and it all tastes different. I could work out a mother's diet from what I tasted.
Is breast milk the most valuable human fluid on the planet? We meet the people going to the ends of the earth to get hold of it, and the adults and infants that share the love for the breast medicine.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's amazing.
Maybe not all. How much do you need?
I'll take everything you can give me. My son drinks a lot.
Okay.
It's almost like a black market. You're hunting individuals down to see if they've got, you know, what you need.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet
All
you.
the best for your son.
I'm Julie, I'm a stay-at-home mum. I've got 7 children. I was on hormone therapy during my pregnancies, and so my milk didn't come in, sadly. The furthest I've travelled to get donor milk is 3 hours. When you're down to your last bottle, you'll go anywhere. If you cannot breastfeed your child, then what could be better than giving that child human breast milk from another human woman?
In the past 5 years, online milk sharing groups have boomed. Today, thousands of mums like Julie hook up and trade breast milk.
I wouldn't want to see my breast milk going to waste. I discovered quite early on after having Margot that I had an excess supply, and I decided to start pumping, thinking, you know, I could help somebody out. I've had people say it's strange because it's sharing bodily fluids and there's nothing wrong with formula. Before formula was around, this was the normal thing.
But when it comes to sharing bodily fluids, there are risks involved. Because breast milk has the ability to carry blood-borne pathogens and diseases. And if the donor mum is not upfront about drug and alcohol use, that too can be passed on in her milk.
I don't see a junkie sitting there expressing breast milk for half an hour to give it away for free. It's such a small risk for such a huge health benefit for the baby. If you can't breastfeed, unless you can make your way into this little niche market of donated breast milk, there's no other option other than formula.
But what if there was another option? We already have sperm banks and blood banks. What about milk banks? Australia currently has 5 milk banks, all of which are attached to hospitals to exclusively supply sick and preterm babies.
This is our Level 2 neonatal intensive care unit. My name's Dr Ben Hartman. I am a research scientist and I manage our donor human milk bank here at King Eddie Memorial Hospital. So it's one of the biggest neonatal intensive care units in the Southern Hemisphere. We treat a lot of patients and we're also able to provide the donor milk banking service to the entire state from the one site. All the milk stored frozen at -20 is probably close to 100-120 litres of milk that we will use in the next 3 months for patients in the nursery. Babies born prematurely are born with an immature digestive system and an immature immune system. Any infection is obviously something that we really want to avoid, and breast milk is one way that we know we can reduce the risk of those infections. We reduce the risk of a disease called necrotising enterocolitis. It's something we only see in preterm babies.
It costs around $250,000 to treat a baby with necrotising enterocolitis.
For every dollar we spend on donor milk, we're returning $2 to $4 to the public health system.
Where this specialised milk bank helps the most fragile. It wasn't long ago that milk banks were right across Australia, but with the discovery of HIV, that came to an abrupt halt.
How quickly did it stop?
Overnight. Overnight milk banking stopped.
Maria Ryan worked as a midwife for 38 years, with 19 of those years as a lactation consultant.
Milk banking was established in Australia up until 1979 when HIV became an issue. There was a federal government decree that milk banking in hospitals was to stop. 3 weeks after this situation. We had a baby that developed an infection that ultimately meant that this baby passed away. And I thought, if you'd been born a month ago, you'd still be here today. Countries around the world realise that if we pasteurise the milk, we destroy all the viruses, we can continue with milk banking.
So where Australia pulled the pin on milk banking, Brazil stepped it up. They are now the undisputed kings of human breast milk. Of the 292 milk banks across the globe, 220 of them are in Brazil. Around 30 years ago, Brazil devised a system to educate mothers and assist them in breastfeeding their babies for longer. The result, a whopping 73% decrease in infant mortality.
Os bebês tiveram uma sobrevida muito melhor. Nós temos casos menores, né? Índices menores de diarreia, as infecções de todos os tipos.
With around 150,000 donors, the Milk Bank Initiative has created national acceptance and encouragement for breastfeeding women. And it means that 39% of Brazilian babies are exclusively breastfed until 6 months of age, where in Australia, that number is closer to 16%.
Healthy nutrition is the cornerstone of health prevention in our public health system. And families know that healthy food is breast milk.
Maria Ryan knows the beauty of breast milk. From this humble shopfront, she operates the only charity-run milk bank in Australia.
Hi, lovely. I have your box of goodies.
Breast milk banks fill a gap for where mother's own milk is not available. We don't pay mums for donations. I believe there is a beauty in our culture to give to support others in need. So once we receive the milk at the bank, we defrost, we test, we pasteurise. Then we distribute it to those babies in need.
But Maria only has the capacity to supply hospitals and sick babies, and demand is outstripping supply, leaving many mums struggling to breastfeed, high and dry.
There are many mothers that we can't provide for. I believe we need a publicly funded national network of milk banks as a collective for us to provide for all families in Australia.
In fact, that was the government's own recommendation back in 2007. They said milk banks would give babies a healthier start to life, reduce healthcare costs, and provide real support for mothers who are unable to provide their baby with breast milk.
It's absolutely in government's interest to help mothers to breastfeed successfully because it saves the health system millions, and in the case of big countries like the United States, billions.
Julie Smith is Australia's expert when it comes to the economics of breastfeeding and milk banks.
You hear a lot of people saying breastfeeding's free. Well, actually, it's not, but it's highly valuable. If we put a value on mother's milk, public policy will be better oriented to helping mothers to breastfeed. At the moment, they give it very little priority. Now, when I did my estimates of the value of human milk in Australia, the figure I used is $100 a litre. 10 years' time, there will definitely be trade around the world in human milk. People are willing to pay for it, and it's worth paying for.
And whilst a dollar value on human milk seems like a foreign concept, the commercialisation of breast milk is already a reality in the USA. One American company, Ambrosia Labs, is buying milk directly from Cambodian women at the cost of around $45 per litre. Then they ship that milk to America and sell it for a hefty $150 per litre. That's over 200 times the price of cow's milk.
If I could just go to the store and buy it off the shelf 100%, I would do that.
And some say it's not just babies that can benefit from the components within breast milk.
I've been drinking breast milk since December 2011, so it's nearly 5 years. I always felt breast milk was for more than the babies. My name's Jenny Jones. I'm a midwife and lactation consultant. As a lactation consultant, you have to understand the biochemistry and everything about breast milk at a deep level.
Jenny was diagnosed with multiple myeloma cancer in 2011. She started consuming breast milk to boost her immune system whilst undergoing a bone marrow transplant.
Found I got through the transplant without infections. I felt absolutely sure that it was going to be my lifeline, and it's turned out to be so. I have milk that's been declined by milk banks, and there's a very strict criteria that milk banks have to follow. An adult immunity can cope with things that babies can't. So this is the supply I have at the moment.
You said you like to see your stash there?
Yes, I get excited when I see a full freezer of milk. Amazing what excites you. I've had milk from many different mothers and it all tastes different. I could definitely tell if a mother's having an excessive amount of garlic. And I'd say to Bob, there's a lot of garlic in this one. And because it's so vital to me, I'm just grateful to the mothers. I just drink it. Cheers and thank you to the mother. There's plenty of cream in this milk, so she's on a good amount of good fat in her diet.
Any garlic?
No, it's just beautiful milk. Very silky smooth. I feel that my general health is better. I just feel I've got more stamina, my body's stronger and my bones are strong. Why shouldn't adults be having it if it's really helping them? And the milk's going to be discarded anyway. We need the research because while there's no research, there's not going to be support from the medical profession, and I can understand that.
Where Jenny has a steady supply, Julie doesn't have enough.
Once my little one was almost 8.5 months old, I struggled to find any more donor milk and I had to put him back onto formula. It's perceived as being unnatural to give a child milk from another woman's breast, which is the furthest thing from the truth. It is the most natural thing if you cannot breastfeed your child.
We've had a national discussion on breast milk and breast milk banks. What we need now is action.
We've got to have this understanding that there's a wider production of things that are valuable, that are not necessarily all bought and sold.
Success for us is about not providing donor milk and having a mum successfully breastfeed. That's our measure of success, is to do ourselves out of a job.